Good morning. So it's about 6 a.m. I'm trying to get ready for work, so I was going to make this short and sweet, but we'll see how short it actually ends up being. I had a conversation with someone in the last few days, and it was about household management. Specifically when it comes to like chores and getting things done around the house and sharing the workload of housekeeping with family members. And I have a lot to say on this topic because, as I will explain, I guess, with my the way I grew up and then my own experience in raising my family. But the long and the short of it is, if you aren't a person who is in it for the story, I will just say that the simple solution to managing a household is to create a structure, a very simple structure, lists, make everybody their own list on housekeeping day, keep it short, 4 or 5 items, set a time limit on the amount of time that this should take, a reasonable time limit. For me, it's, usually 3 to 5 tasks per kid and a time limit of 2 hours to accomplish all of that. It makes things less overwhelming for everybody. It encourages cooperation because children aren't overwhelmed with the idea that there's so much to do and it's for an indeterminate amount of time. This is possibly going to take up their whole weekend. There's no anxiety about that with this approach. So to get into how I came to this conclusion and how I trained my children from the time that they were very young to work with this very simple system. I grew up with in a household of 6 people, small home. I was the oldest and the only girl. And so a lot of the expectations for housekeeping and housework fell on me. I grew up in a home with very traditionally minded parents. And my dad is from southern United States. My mom is from out west. My dad's southern white guy. My mom is Hispanic Native American from Arizona. And I have siblings that are 10 and 12 years younger than me. So I was expected to help out. Unfortunately, I also have ADHD, and I have a mother that struggles with delegation and structuring anything. Her home is very neat and very tidy. Let's not get this confused. And this is something interesting that I'm learning. Her about people. She's very neat, tidy, interested in decorating, that kind of thing. But there's not really a system that underlies any of that. So it can be difficult for other people to know where things need to be because there's not really a system for how she has things organized. I, on the other hand, am very big on creating an underlying system first and then following through with, organizing and maintaining that. So needless to say that growing up, my mom and I obviously our brains think very differently about things, and our approach to getting a task done is different. She tried a few times making me a list when I was growing up, and the times that she did that were very effective. Like, it really helped. But she didn't like to make lists. And, she told me that when I got older one day. She was like, I just don't like making lists. So the results of that, though, were that she was overworked and felt underappreciated and burned out. And this would inevitably develop into the rest of the family being told how, unhelpful, ungrateful, and inadequate their efforts were to be of any assistance. And because I didn't know what was really required of me, my parents would be like, okay, today we're going to clean the house. That's such a broad statement that to tell a child that, I mean, that's like walking in. So I have experience in early childhood education. I worked as a substitute teacher and a paraprofessional for children ages like kindergarten or pre-K through 8th grade. And in no universe do you ever walk into a classroom and just say, okay, we're going to clean the classroom today. Go to it. You will have an absolute circus on your hands. But for whatever reason, my parents felt like that should work with 4 kids. So, and I can tell you it did not. The results were a lot of shouting and screaming and crying and an absolute war zone every time. So when I remember telling, my parents once, I was like, why don't you just make me a list? And the response was, well, you shouldn't need one. You should just be able to look around you and know. Several things besides just that, like I said, no child that I have met, of the hundreds of children that I have met, do very well with that approach, generally speaking. And on top of the fact that I have been diagnosed with ADHD, and I also needed glasses that my parents weren't aware of until the age I was 12. So there were a lot of reasons why I wasn't noticing things around me and maybe wasn't able to focus or prioritize. My mom couldn't really prioritize either. Like she was active and busy and she got a lot done, but there wasn't like a system. Like I said, there wasn't a system to it. And for me, I happen to be very systems oriented. I want to know how things work together and why, and like rationally, logically, why these things need to be accomplished and what the end result, the desired end result is, and time frames for all. Like, I'm very into the logistics of accomplishing something. So when I grew up and I had my own children, my goal was to try to figure out how do I prevent this from happening in my own family? I had 3 children, all very close together. And don't get me wrong, there were definitely meltdown days and burnout days and all this kind of thing. But one of the things that helped and that has continued to help is that when the youngest was about 3 or 4, by this point, everybody is potty trained. I started giving them their own list. And they couldn't read. Obviously, when my son was 3, he couldn't read. But I would draw a picture of the task. Maybe it was folding clothes or making his bed or cleaning the bathroom. Well, cleaning the bathroom. We'll go into what that means in a minute. But I would draw a picture of that and either put it in a sheet protector or laminate the page so they could just reuse it and mark off with a dry erase marker when they finish the task. And so I got them each their little basket with their name on it for their laundry, and I would separate their clothes into their little basket and show them how to fold them, and they would put those away. And then I would get them the extra small cleaning gloves and Lysol wipes and show them how to disinfect a bathroom. And I would do, when they were younger, I would coach them through these tasks, and this is how you do this. And as they got used to this, it got to where I could just hand them their list and say, okay, it's time to do our chores. I would put fun music on and say, when you're done with this, I would also put a timer on, I had an egg timer, just a simple egg timer. And I would say, you have this much time, get as much done on that list as you can by the time this timer goes off. And they would. And it worked beautifully. As they got older, they were able to, obviously, they learned to read. I could write out a list that was just, specific for that day, what needed to be done, and they could take that and they would go and do what needed to be done. And again, there's always a time frame given for this. They do best with that because then they know this isn't an all-day thing. This isn't going to eat up your whole weekend. This is just some things that need to be done in a very short, relatively short amount of time. Go to it, and then you can go back to doing fun stuff, or we're going to go do something, a reward or something like that. So as a result, now this has where I was married for 12 years, and I've been divorced for the last 5. I think 2019 was when we split up, and we've moved house a few times. We spent a little bit of time living with relatives until I could get out on our own again. And our routine definitely got off track then because I'm not the one managing that household. That's not my home to manage. And so not having that structure really did affect our ability to accomplish things in where we were living. So we moved out and back into our routine. Now my children are all teenagers, and when I started dating a new guy, my oldest kind of joked with me. She was like, did you tell him that you have us like trained? They like that movie Yours, Mine, and Ours, and she's like, you're like the sergeant, and she's like, you have a list, and we all do our thing, and we have a system. And I said, which is a bit of an exaggeration, I don't think I'm quite that level, but to her, in her mind, she's like, that's you have, everybody knows what they need to be doing, and we get it done. And all my children's personalities are different. Like I have one child that's naturally tidy, and then the other two, a bit more relaxed and laid back about that. But still, when it comes time to do housework, like the attitude is generally good. Like nobody has any major meltdowns. I don't have to get angry or bent out of shape. Everybody just knows what needs to be done. And it doesn't mean that everybody's always happy to do their chores, but they understand this is just what we need to do so that the rest of our life works. We have public school. I work, full-time job. I'm going to college full-time. I also have a side job that I do. And I still manage to cook dinner, every night with them, except for one night a week where we go out to dinner together. And, we eat dinner at the table most of the time together. Sometimes we're just all so tired from our day that we're just, everybody take your plate and you can go and sit wherever you want to in the living room, but whatever you want to do. And then just bring your dishes back and everybody's, we get ready for tomorrow. But it never fails that we still have family time every day. We have conversation time, and then our weekends, are spent together. And so they understand that for that to happen, it means that we have to support this, support housekeeping. We support each other in housekeeping. And it's made the kids more willing because they know exactly what the expectations are and the time frame and everything. When they're done with that, obviously my work is rarely done by that point. Like I still have a lot of things. I don't ask them to do as much as I'm doing. But they'll see me working on something, or like with my son, if I go in the living room and I start, tidying up, he will jump off the couch and help me. It's voluntary. My daughter will, unload the dishwasher. She'll, somebody might take the trash out, like without having to be asked, or they may ask, is there something else I can do to help mom? Because they see like they're like, you work all the time. You're always working at something. And, but because they're satisfied with themselves, they know I'm happy with them. It just makes them more willing to, without any extra pressure, more willing to be of help in the home. So that's just something that I think I hear a lot of families struggle with this. I hear a lot of moms like, "Ugh, nobody ever does anything. I always have to absolutely lose my mind before anybody helps." And that's just something that I learned, is that setting very clear expectations. It wasn't just an automatic thing. Obviously, it took some time to train everybody to, cooperate with this arrangement. And but now it's just a normal part of life. Like, the kids just, they know this is how we keep life running. This is how we get to do the things that we like doing. And this is how we make our school days less stressful and our home life less stressful. It's because everybody knows. There's no mystery. There's no confusion. You just know what needs to be done. And I'm currently taking, like I said, I worked in the school system for a period of time. And have seen that kind of structure is typical for children. Children need to know, very clear expectations. They need to have clear routines. They need to know what's expected of them. And then it's really not just children either. Adults who, in a job, in a company. When I work in now, I get to work in close proximity with the company manager, and observe how those, how he manages, and what techniques work and which ones don't. And that's something that's just universal, is that no boss, no manager walks into a company and just assumes that people know what they need to be doing. No, there's structure. People are given instructions, they're given tools, they're make sure that they have the information that they need. They may be provided with a binder or a clipboard with very specific instructions to accomplishing or completing the task to the standard that's required. And, throughout the day, the manager checks in and makes sure everybody, knows what they need to be doing. Are there any problems? Is anybody getting off task? So those principles that work with, managing a classroom or managing a company, regardless of the size of the company, those principles apply in household management as well. Clear expectations, the right supports, making sure everybody has their tools for the job, and that there's a time frame given to those tasks, the accomplishment of those tasks, the completion. But I wanted to share this. Hopefully, maybe it helps. It's really simple. Like I said before, I know some people have come up with really complicated charts and grids and stuff to do all this in their home. For us, a simple list works. I make up a list in my notes app for my teenagers. I text them their list, let them know what the plan is, that, we got this amount of time to finish this, and then we're going to go do something fun or whatever, or they can go back to doing whatever they were doing before, chores started. And so they just know that, when I say, okay, it's time to get started, they know this is just we get started, we get it done, and then there's something positive to look forward to afterwards. So, but I hope you all have a lovely Thursday and have a good one.